This is another episode of the Future Proof You podcast for Working Dad. And today I have with us Dr. Ai. How are you doing, Ai?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Julian.
No worries. I met Ai on LinkedIn, and I think the post that I remember that really triggered me was when she had, I think it was Aiden who was selling his shoes on eBay. I'm like, yes, 8 years old and he's making money on eBay. Awesome. Do you remember that post?
Yeah, I remember the post. Yeah.
So tell us about what you do. Do you force your kids to sell the things, or do you actually teach them how to sell?
Okay. Oh, great question. So for me, I think I'm kind of lucky because I have the education background. So I hate the traditional education model, which is the sage on the stage. So I don't really force my children to do anything. I guide them. And so I design projects based on their interests. So the selling on eBay I can share with you how we actually got this idea. It's really, we co-created this activity. So he was doing the traditional workbook on math. He was, oh, this is so boring. I don't want to do it. I was like, okay. So I could have put away the workbook. I was like, wow, then let's talk about money, right? Then I asked him, hey, if you can make $10 a day, how much money you are going to make a week? Right, so he was doing like multiplication, things like that. So we did that for quite a few minutes until we get to $5,000. I was like, wow,
Nice.
Aiden, yeah, that is so much money. What are we going to do with the money? And then he said, I don't know. Then I said, oh, how about we figure it out? And then we decided to search on Amazon. And so he was searching on Amazon. He's like, and then I actually created a table for him, again, doing math. So like one column is the item and another column is like the cost. I was like, okay, you can go to Amazon. You can see like what are something that you want to purchase. And then you want to make sure you write down the name of the item and how much money that item cost. So he was doing that, again, practicing math and writing all those things. And then he saw this, he was purchasing things for me, for my husband, for his younger brother. I said, yeah, good, Ada, go for it. And he was like, oh, Mommy, look at...
Which credit card was he using, though?
Which curriculum?
Credit card. Was he using?
Credit card. No, he was not buying. He was just writing down on piece of paper, assuming. And again, we're trying to practice math. And so he was like, oh, Mommy, I saw this top. And I think you will really love the top. It's like my favorite color, the design. I was like, yeah, I love it. And then I was like, can you buy it for me? Or he said that I want to buy this for you. I said, yeah, good. Do you have money? He's like, no. I was like, okay, what can we do about this? He was like, oh, Mommy, remember that you and Daddy were asking me to put away my old clothes because we had been nagging him for so long. And I said, oh yeah, I can sell them online. I said, oh wow, great idea. Let's do it. I never sold anything on eBay or Amazon myself. I was like, oh, can you do some research about this? So he did some research, did like a pros and cons analysis comparing Amazon versus eBay. Eventually he chose eBay because I think on eBay you can sell the first 50 items for free. And then, I was like, yeah, go for it. So eBay, I really didn't teach him. I was like, okay, here's the computer. This is eBay. We did use, I think, my birthday or my husband's birthday to create a eBay account for him. But he pretty much figured everything out by himself. And I give him some feedback, learning how to take pictures. You want to make sure the background is clear and how to write headline, brand new pair of sneakers. I don't even know how he did it. I didn't even check. I just completely trusted him. And so he did himself. He has been selling quite a few items. And a few weeks ago, he got me that top. I was really excited.
Nice.
When I opened the bag, I was like, oh. And then, so that made him really excited. So it's really a co-created assignment. And I didn't really, even when we had this conversation in the beginning, practicing counting how much money we had, I wasn't even thinking about eBay or selling online. It's just naturally emerged. Yeah.
Well,
And
as
he
you
has
said,
been
you
loving
guided
it.
him, right?
I show up as a facilitator. I think that is something parents need to understand. We are not dictators. We show up as a facilitator, and that's kind of what I do. I listen, and we practice the pedagogy of listening. I listen to him, figure out what he's interested in, and show him options, and facilitate and guide him and give him support, believe in him. And now he has been using ClickFunnels to create his own online store and selling some of my stuff. Like you see, this is my school's T-shirt. I have my mug. Yeah, so he has been selling some mugs, stuff on our own site. So like I showed him, I showed him this is ClickFunnels, and then he kind of figured out most of it by himself. So
Nice. And all that started with an assignment in math that he didn't enjoy.
Totally, right? Starting with the problem. Yeah, exactly.
And how old is he?
8.
That's awesome.
And the other day I did like a reflection videos because we have been homeschooling him for quite some time. I was like, Aiden, let's do a reflection video. He was like, okay. So I just took out my camera and asked him a few questions. And I was really shocked by his answers. He said that with homeschooling, I have a lot more aha moments. I was like, wow, that's deep. What do you mean, aha? He was like, working on challenges and figuring things out, like, aha. I was really pleased to hear that. Yeah, because only last year, he was like, I don't want to go to school. Yeah. School is so boring. And like he was falling asleep in classes. And even his teacher told us he couldn't really function that well, couldn't really focus that well. And now I'm like, oh my God, like he's like a new kid. Exactly. So
I think this the period of isolation has helped us parents to realize who our kids are, but for them as well to realize who they are. I think my son is 10, and what he's been learning during isolation is that school stops his creativity, like his creative flow. He's been writing my son loves playing and writing songs, the piano and the guitar and singing. And he's been doing these new songs, and he realized, oh my God, that creativity, it was stopped at school, because at school you have to be there from 9 to 10, and then we do therapy, blah blah blah. And wow, so that was so interesting.
Totally. I mean, talking about creativity, I have so much to say about this. There's a very famous NASA study. It's a longitudinal study, and they examined a group of children and to see how creative they are. And so they asked the children, like 3 years old, 4 years old, like, how many ways can you think of using a paper clip? And so the young children, they were so cute, like hundreds of, they scored 98% in terms of divergent thinking, creativity. And so 5 years later, the same group of children, creativity decreased to 50%. Yeah. Another 5 years later, the number continues to decrease. By the time they become young professionals, adults, 2%. So from 98% to 2%, one compelling argument is they become more educated.
Well, look, that resonates. So, I mean, you've been. We were both in a classroom with undergraduate students, right? And I think every time I run first year courses in entrepreneurship, and we start with, brainstorming, blue sky activities that I used to run as a consultant with CEOs, right? And I'll go, so here is a big problem. Let's put on a piece of paper, group of 5, one post-it at a time for all of the ideas that come through your mind. You've got 5 minutes, and you need to aim for 50 post-its. 5 minutes later, no post-it at all. They will raise their hand saying, what's the right answer? You're like, oh no. And it triggered me to do my PhD on understanding how students become entrepreneurs, right? And I found out that I interviewed over 100 student entrepreneurs who were making over 100K in revenue a year, right? So they were successful student entrepreneurs. And I found out that 25% of them came from alternative schools, so Montessori and Steiner, because they had that creativity. And all the other kids were creative as well.
Mm-hmm,
So
I want to read your dissertation now. I'm intrigued. Yeah. But it's so true, so true. I also now I run my own school. I noticed that the younger the children, the less I have to do the unlearning part. They are more open, but the older they are, the more fixated they are in terms of their way of thinking, like resistance to change. And it's really interesting because like I think when you look at our children, they're like, oh, what is the correct answer? I really don't think it's the fault of the children, but it's really the system has trained them to think like that. To figure out the teacher doing so many multiple choices, Scantron exams, and they lose that agency and even the courage to make a mistake, because if I try something new, I'm going to make a mistake, then my grade is going to be low, and everybody's asking me about my grade. And so I think it's a reflection of how the parents, how educators, how the system, we are kind of forcing the students, and we are trying to impose on them what education is supposed to be.
So what do you recommend to parents to do? Because you say, oh, it's the fault of the system, but we are part of the system and we can make decisions to modify the system. So what do you recommend parents to do with young kids, for instance?
I mean, like, first, I think parents need to become educated. And I have been having so many conversations with parents. I know that parents have a tough, busy life, this and that. But they need to understand that there are so many changes in today's education landscape and in the career market. If they are outsourcing their children's education to a school, it is no longer working. And they need to at least, listen or read some articles, set up a Google alert, education, and like be informed. I think that is very important. And second, stop putting the entire attention on academic performance. And again, this comes with education. Like research has shown, GPA is actually inversely related to innovation. Meaning that the higher the GPA, the less likely the kid is to innovate. So parents need to understand that. But again, if you are now investing in reading articles or learning about this or watching this show, you still think that the only thing that my kid needs to succeed in life is a straight A, like a really high GPA. And then if they have that mentality, they are forcing their children. So I think, they need to understand, there is so much more to a kid's future readiness than academic performance. I like at my school, we talk a lot about life skills, mindset, and like a lot more than like how many A's. Elon Musk, he said that I don't need PhD, and I don't even care if you graduate from high school or not, right? And I think that's the trend. Skills, experience are more important than degrees, and parents need to understand that. But I don't think many parents get that.
Well, because we don't get the time, and we don't feel educated. And I think self-isolation has forced a lot of us to look at what's happening in the education side and get us more involved with it, because, well, we had to help them do it, basically.
Yeah, totally. I think, I hear you. I think even if parents do not want to, take classes, I totally understand who has time for that. But one thing they can do is to really listen to their children, at least at home, to create a very safe space, psychologically safe space for their children to open up, to share with parents. Like my son told me when he was 7 years old, school is so boring. I don't want to go back to school. So that we didn't punish him or like, oh, wow, that is really interesting. Can we have a discussion about it, right? So be a good listener and trust your children as opposed to trust the teachers so much. And I mean, like when our children still went to school, every time when I pick up the kids, I will hear parents ask the kids, hey, report cards, right? Hey, listen to the teacher. Did you listen to the teacher? I'm like, wow. In my heart was like, I mean, you need to respect the teacher, but you don't have to be so obedient. I'm a teacher, you are a teacher, we don't know everything. We make mistakes. We don't know the children that well. And I think parents need to understand and trust their own children, listen to them, and empower them to open up without feeling so concerned. Oh my God, I can't tell my parents how I actually feel about this. I don't want to be punished, but like actually create that safe space for children to open up, have a conversation without making them feel like stress or like fear of being punished.
I've been fighting this with my son. My son, we put him after seeing the results of that study, I decided to put my son in a Steiner school because no grades, no competitions, and he loved it. Like so full of creative people. And then we moved from Adelaide to Sydney, and the closest Steiner school is half an hour away, and it's $18,000 a year, right? So I put him in a public school. And then he came back saying, "Oh, we've got tests, we've got I need to get gold stars and silver point and all." And I'm like, "No!" And I sat down with him and I told him, I did that as well. I was the best student in primary school, in high school. Got my MBA, got a PhD. And you know what, Tayo? I wasn't happy because I didn't know about what you said, which was life skills, right? And so during self-isolation, we skipped all the academic things and we just looked at how can he increase his creativity? How can he bring his career he's a basker, right? How can he start diversifying his streams of revenue? So he started having online busking. He started to have his TikTok videos, and that it just blossomed. As you said, when you start listening to them, they start sharing with you what they want to do.
Exactly, and respect your children. When they open up to you, don't say, "Oh my God, that is so stupid. Don't ever do that." And then you will shut down your children. And no wonder they don't want to open up to the parents. They will turn to some not so good people. They will actually open up. I don't think parents should do that. Yeah, just listen. Yeah. Give them that support, especially for teenagers. Yeah.
But as you said, the problem is a lot of parents, I don't know anything about how to teach English or how to teach math. I know how to facilitate entrepreneurship. So that was easy for me to do that. But for other parents who don't have that training, then it's better than to be able to find another school. So can you explain what you do in your program to help kids learn about life skills, about mindset, and how parents trust you to do that for the kids?
Totally. I mean, so first of all, after I resigned from my own professor position, I discovered there are so many alternative schools, right? And I feel like parents, you don't have, even with homeschooling or whatever, you don't need to feel pressured to teach your children everything. Education needs to involve the heart. And I think a good educator or a good parent is to inspire the heart. So once you inspire the heart, when the heart is ready, the kid can figure things out. There's YouTube University, there's Google, there's so many online classes. Many of them are pretty inexpensive. So, but the problem is that many parents think that education is only about the mind, right? But the mind listens to the heart. And I think, even if the parent don't feel like I have a PhD, this and that, but really listen to children and figure out what they want, listen to their heart. And then just Google, right? Alternative schools. If my kids are really into coding or computer games, alternative schools that help you children learn gaming, things like that, you can probably identify a long list. So do your own homework. So at my own school, and we adopt a very unique curriculum, and we have 3 core components. And I actually created an iceberg model. So the tip of the iceberg is school-based learning. So I wanted to share with the parents that, you think this is so important, it's only the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, I get you now, yes.
Yes. So under that is everything that we cover at Classroom Without Walls. We include knowledge, specifically new media knowledge. We work with the students to help them understand how they can use social media to create, as opposed to having social media to control and consume their lives. It is a big challenge. Parents, they come to me, oh my God, I don't know what to do with social media. And even at many K-12 schools in the United States, and the schools turn to ban social media completely. But if you do some research, you will discover that McKinsey report, LinkedIn Learning, they all mentioned that the social media, digital literacy, you and I were talking about marketing, all those are important 21st century skills. So if a school is banning social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything, then where on earth are children going to develop those skills? It's not uncommon. Like almost every single kid comes to my program, never heard of LinkedIn. Many of them don't know Google Doc, and they have no idea. They have no idea, even on their very favorite social media platform, Instagram or TikTok, they don't know how to engage in storytelling. They have no idea. They never learned. And you and I, we know this is a learned, a trained skill. I'm paying coaches to teach me. Like, I have been in this space for so many years. So imagine a kid who has been using this in their entire life as a way to be entertained. Now you are asking them to use this as a way to create. They don't know how to do it. So we really teach them how to kind of switch from being a passive consumer to an active content creator. And when you look at the entire internet population, only 1% is actually content creator. 90% lurker, 9% contributor, 1% content creator. So we train our students how to join that 1%. And I coach them launching live streaming podcasts and work on their LinkedIn profile, practice digital networking, not the traditional face-to-face networking, which is important, but how you do digital networking, again, they don't learn that. So that is one foundation. And second one is life skill. So under life skill, we have collaboration, communication, creativity, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. And again, research has shown that EQ, for example, is 2 times more predictive of a person's long-term success than IQ. And again, many parents don't know this. They think that IQ is the only thing that matters. And so, like, I see the biggest transformation in our students as we talk about life skill, emotional intelligence. So for my program before COVID, and the model is actually a blended learning model. So we have a large part is online, but we also have a kind of a 10-day in-person event, which is always in a different country. So last year we did our in-person one in Singapore, which was amazing. Like, students, literally, they loved it so much. They didn't want to go back home. It was like really amazing. And but we can't do it right now. So with the life skill component, I actually hired some top trainers in Singapore, and they are going to bring in some students, local students from Singapore, to practice communication with my students, to practice collaboration, and to practice adaptability. We have to change our class time because of the time zone difference. Many students don't even know that there is actually time zone difference. They were like, oh, wow, there are people different time zones. I was like, duh, yes. So it's really interesting to see that. And the last core foundation is mindset. And many students, they really struggle with low confidence. And I noticed that big time. And so we work with students, really understanding their core value. You were talking about how you are not happy, and the same with my career. And I spent so many years in education. And I think if I embarked on a journey earlier, asking myself, who am I? What is something that I'm really interested in? I probably would be an entrepreneur like a long time ago. And but again, because nobody ever asked me, like as if my own voice didn't matter. My entire life was dictated by standardized curriculum, right? When you look at today's children, many of them the same. Their life is like, you have to do this, and that, and like they don't really get to know who they are. So that is something I work with the students under the mindset component, and self-awareness, self-love, self-regulation, growth mindset, entrepreneurial mindset. So that's kind of what we cover. I'm the lead teacher. I also carefully and competitively selected a group of digital mentors, and they will cover different topics. Yeah, like last week, 2 weeks ago, we had one of my digital mentors who is a college dropout, but a very successful young entrepreneur. And after he dropped out of college and grow his business into 7-figure and featured on Forbes. And so it's really interesting when he came to my class, shared his journey, and students were like, wow, incredible. And even just the last several months, COVID, he made 18 million selling masks.
What? Wow.
I'm really impressed by how fast they act. Whereas many people think, victim, right? My God, this is bad. And it's like, waiting for the government to do something. But those kids, they fast. That was now he was selling T-shirt. And then when this came, he was like, jumped into it. And then, it was incredible. So I have lots of digital mentors like that and come in and talk about different things. Yeah, that's kind of...
I'd like to come back to what you said. You said you help them create on social media, and then you also touched down on learning who I am. And don't you find that when getting into the creator mode, it actually forces you to ask yourself who you are, and also forces you to listen to your audience and to understand who all the people are and what they want. And that's like really powerful skills for our kids, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I actually teach my own students how they can use the social media as a search engine. So one student, she's really into creative writing. So I have been coaching her to search like different hashtags, like creative writing or creativity on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on different social media platforms, and to identify some of those people. Oh, what are they talking about, right? And exactly. Yeah, and they were like, oh, wow, that is so interesting, because again, they never learned that social media can be so powerful and almost like a search engine. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, it becomes really, for me, like the way I'm using it with my students and my clients, it becomes such a quick way to do your market validation, to do your market research, things that it will take so much time to do interviews on the phone or in the street. Now 100%. On social media, it's so quick.
Yeah, especially on YouTube. Like I will ask the students to do a quick search on YouTube, and you will see that this topic, how many people are talking about this, and their video views, like engagement, and then you can get a good understanding. Oh, wow, this is a popular topic. And then sometimes, if you are really good, like I call those professional stalkers, if you are really good, you go through the comments, you will see like what are some common questions people ask that can also give you some ideas in terms of content creation. You are right. It's a big focus group and it is free. And the problem with many young people is that they don't know how to use this focus group. They have never learned. And I have to do lots of unlearning and then relearning for sure.
Yeah, there is some detraining that needs to happen, and for them to learn the new skills. And the problem is the environment is limiting them. I was running a coaching program for an accelerator on algae, and so this young team from they're like 22 years old, and their plan was to create AI platform to gamify the learning of science through algae. So their plan was to go and do workshops at high schools and to learn what they like about algae, and then to create a platform, and that will cost $50,000 to develop. So they got into the accelerator, they got the money, and then COVID happened. So no way they could do any workshops at school because all the schools were closed. And so I said, well, look, let's look at another way to do it. Let's use TikTok and let's start doing videos of experiences on algae let's find which one are fun and try to educate. And it was so hard for them because the person in charge of the program was like, TikTok, really? Their parents were like, what, TikTok? But this is just for fun. In his own team, the other guys were like, no, we want to design a platform, like an AI platform, and we don't want to be TikTok. 2 months later, they've developed over 70 videos in TikTok. They know exactly the type of experiences that kids love doing about algae. And now they've developed a kit so kids can do those same experiments. And they're offering it to kids who give the best feedback and question in TikTok. And so we were asking the question and said, so what are you going to do with all the money to build a platform? And he goes, well, we don't need to build a platform. It takes too long. And I'd rather do more TikTok videos to get more quicker feedback to understand my customers. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly. And again, because, like parents and also many educators, they never used social media the way that we use social media. Right. And then they draw a conclusion, this thing is really bad. Therefore, you can't use it, right? I was like, at least give this a try, right? But yeah, so children there and parents, they are being influenced by the mainstream media, and then this is really damaging, this and that. I think social media is not the root of the problem, but how we are using social media is problematic, and they are not learning the hard part.
And it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, that parents must be educated, and they also need to be educated on social media, because we will be the one putting the limits on our kids. We can blame the system, but if we're not educated ourselves.
100%. That's what I tell parents. Do you really care about your children's future? Then you should learn. Stop watching Netflix, right? I'm sure parents have time. And if you prioritize this, you will make time for it.
100%. And as we said, like the way this is going, we can see during isolation like this where companies are shredding more and more jobs, more and more of their employees, right? And then you talk about that kid who just made $18 million by selling masks online. It's like, wow, why are we producing more employees and we're not producing more self-employed people, basically?
Totally. Again, I was actually interviewing Elaine Pofield yesterday, and she's the author of One Person $1 Million Business. She's also a senior contributor to Forbes, and she has been writing so many incredible stories of those like one person $1 million business. Even she shared last night on my show during COVID. And one lady, I forgot her name, she used to be a babysitter, a nanny, but now with COVID, she couldn't go to people's houses to do like babysitting. Guess what? She pivoted and started doing like babysitting through Zoom. And,
nice.
And made it to like $1 million. I was like, wow. And she served she has lots of additional, is really serving high-end clients. And I was like, wow, that's so creative, right? Nice. So interesting, thinking outside the box. I'm sure there are other millions of nannies who are just like, oh my God, what do I do, right? But, really capitalize. Every crisis, there's an opportunity. Capitalize on and think what you can do. But those young children are really incredible. And so as I was preparing for the interview yesterday, and I actually found out this research, 40% of employees in the US now are non-permanent workers. 40%, almost half. And the number is predicted to continue to increase. And so by the time that our children become like working age professionals, I think 9-to-5 job will probably like 30%. If not like 20%, So they need to be prepared for sure,
Exactly, and to be in charge of their own future. I mean, look at airlines. They all have permanent jobs, and here in Australia, yesterday they just fired 6,000 people who had permanent jobs. So even when they're permanent, you might lose them. So, wow.
And on our show yesterday, Elaine made a great point. She said that the old 9-to-5 jobs, we think they're stable, they're secure, but now it's not. Those are the jobs that are not so secure. But if you are an entrepreneur, I feel like because you are constantly learning, you're constantly developing new skills. And even there's COVID, I'm still gaining clients, I'm still growing. To me, this feels like more a permanent job for me,
Yes.
right? And so I think, the role has been switched.
I agree. And oh man, I'm loving this conversation, but we need to end at some stage. What do you want to end with? What message do you want to share with all the dads on the podcast? To help?
I don't know. We didn't even mention any dad, but anyway. So I hope this everything I shared is useful. And I can end this sharing one of my favorite quotes in terms of education. So it is, when the flower is not blooming, don't blame the flower. Look at the environment in which the flower grows. So when I look at that sentence, I think about our children, right? When our children are not blooming, they're like flowers, precious flowers. When they are not blooming, stop labeling our children this, and that, and stratifying them, but actually examine the environment in which our children grow. And I think, we need to shift the focus instead of always labeling our children, but actually look at how we're educating our children and the environment in which our children are growing.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is so cool. How can we reach you? Where are you available? What's your website? What's your handle? How can we reach out to you?
Yeah, so my website is really simple, classroomwithoutwalls.ai, my name, .ai.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I host 2 live streaming podcasts, and one focuses on social media marketing, which is every Wednesday, and the other one focuses on education. So this might be something that your audience will be interested in.
Yeah.
So on the education show, we discuss, debate, and disrupt education. I have interviewed lots of thought leaders, business entrepreneurs, parents, and homeschoolers and traditional students. So yeah, definitely check that out. And my social media nowadays, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. Just my name, AIADDYSONZHANG. So feel free to connect with me there.
Cool. All right, I'll put this in the show notes. Thank you so much, Ai. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And I end here.